try to go back to the first on-camera performance that we are aware of anyway. I have to trust IMDb, but it looks like you're playing John in Dealing, or the Berkeley
Oh my God! I haven't heard about that in so many years. Good for you. You've actually surprised me, Will.
Well, I think the last time you talked to the Onion AV Club was back in 2007.
Okay.
And I checked, and since then you have been in 22 films, 22 TV series, and a short feature.
That's frightening. I need to retire.
Well, I know, like, some actors will bristle at the term character actor, but you're someone who definitely doesn't seem
No,
to...
I embrace that.
Yeah,
that was my goal all along, was to become a working character actor. I'm thrilled that I'm still working every once in a while.
Which is funny, because a lot of people generally do not go into the business thinking, I want to be a character actor, but I mean, it certainly guarantees work.
Well, I didn't. I think probably when I got into the business, I wasn't thinking of being just strictly a character actor, but I knew I wanted to be a working actor.
Right.
And as the years have gone on, that has just naturally evolved into that, because I'm not a leading. I never was a leading guy anyway. So it's a natural progression to just keep doing this, And Betty White's what, 90?
Exactly. Yeah.
She's still waking.
With The Good Place, that character Derek is just. I can't imagine that you were ever actually told to take it down.
I don't think I was. I'm trying to think if there's ever a time. I don't think I was ever told to take it down. If anything, it really was keep going, keep going, because it's such a fun character. And it's especially so much of that character is so much of why that character works is because I'll say this. So much of why that character works, if you think it works, because there are people, I guess, who don't like that character, but is because of Darcy. Is really like so much of that whole setup is Darcy and I together, because I just really consider doing that character that I'm just doing a part of Darcy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that I'm not really a whole other thing. I'm really just some weird part of her, which is funny. And I've known her from UCB for, I don't know, 10, 15 years.
Oh, wow, okay.
So we have like such an easy, rapport and dynamic from having improvised so many years together that it was so easy to just jump into those parts and like those scenes where we're just either, we're in love, it's great, like cut straight, now we're fighting, we hate each other, like all that stuff was such a blast.
You just got this wide-eyed naivete going on that is so unexpected to see you playing.
Yeah. Well, and that was like that. I will say that was the pitch. Mike sure called me, and he was like, "So this is the character you'd be playing opposite Darcy," and I was like, "Great, yes, I'm in." And he was like, "The character is like not a fully formed being," and I was like, "Okay," and. But he goes, the way that we're going to do it is, he's like, you're basically like a newborn fawn, like really like rickety and not quite sure, like kind of off. He was like, and when Janet appears, there's like a pleasant sound that goes, like a ding.
Yeah.
He's like, but when you appear, there's going to be like a clunky thunk that sounds. And the way we're doing your dialogue is we're writing you lines, then we're translating them with Google Translate into other languages two times. So we're going to, like, we'll take the English dialogue, we'll translate it into, I don't know, Czechoslovakian, then we'll translate the Czechoslovakian into Portuguese, and then we'll take the Portuguese and translate it back into English, and that will be your line. And I was like, what? I was like, absolutely, yes. I only want to work like this for the rest of my life. What are you talking about? This sounds wild.
In regards to Jack Bauer, I was told by a friend of mine I should ask you about the experience of your first action figure.
Tell your friend I laughed.
Okay.
I was sent the first action figure, and they said, have a look at this, and you need to approve it. If it's all right, let us know, and we'll make them. And I sent a message back after I finished work that day, and I'd seen it, and I said, yeah, that's fine. And then I took it out, and I took it with a friend of mine, and we went to a bar, and we got a little drunk, and took pictures of Jack Bauer drinking, little Jack Bauer doll drinking, and stuff like that. And finally, we got a little lit, and then we decided to light him on fire. So we lit him on fire, and till he melted in a puddle in the parking lot. Took pictures of that, too. And the next day, I got a call saying, oh, we're so glad that you approved it all. Just send it back to us, and we'll get underway. And I went, what? And they said, yeah, no, it's a prototype. We need it back. It took them 8 months to do it. And I was like, uh-oh. And I said, I think someone stole it. And it was another year before the doll came out because they had to go back and rebuild it.
I do a column called Pilot Error where I talk about pilots that didn't get to series. The entire pilot for Evel Knievel is on YouTube.
Fuck me. There's fucking no place to hide from anything anymore. Jesus Christ. Well, that was a stroke of fucking luck, I must say. Other than things like YouTube, where you come back to fucking remind you. Listen, we've all got stinkers out there, and if we're lucky that we survived them, right?
Well, I want to ask about your very, very first sitcom, Stanley.
Oh, my God.
Because I have to be that guy who asked about the thing that nobody else asked about.
That's right. Oh, my God. That was Max Liebman produced it, and, of course, it was Buddy Hackett. And it was the only live sitcom ever, I believe. It went live.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was an experience. But again, since it was live, that wasn't a hell of a lot of work. They just rehearse it and go do it.
Yeah.
But some of it was funny and some was not. I remember they would have agents from the William Morris office come and be the audience and laugh.
Oh, wow.
And I would say, I don't think that's as funny as everybody's kind of reacting to it,
Well,
there's no laugh track.
Amazon actually put some episodes of the show up for streaming.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Oh, dear. Well, yeah, your reputation follows you everywhere.
Well, I was watching. I just could not imagine Buddy Hackett working within the realm of standards and practices.
Right.
Especially not now knowing it was live.
Yeah, right. But he was kind of tough, on some of the people.
Yeah.
He was okay with me. I don't know if it was insecurity or what, but he was funny.
Let's see. Next one, pardon my dog in the background.
Sorry.
Charlie Davis, Going Places. I mostly have to ask about this because someone on Twitter told me to ask, and I watched the opening credits. And
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
say no more, I guess.
This is one of those times I came out to Los Angeles here. I auditioned for a few things. All of a sudden, there's this element of the auditioning process, which I'd never gone through before, called the network test. And, you audition for basically the writer and one of the producers, and then you come back and you audition like for the director and then one of the producers. You come back and you audition for some more producers, and then you audition for the studio, right?
Yeah.
And then you audition for the network. So it's usually like 4, and each time, in my particular experience, you get more and more nervous. Like the first 2 times, you're loose, it's easy, and then you start to second guess yourself. And each time, the response from the people you're auditioning for is less and less. And it's weird when you're doing a comedy, and the people in the room are smiling, but they don't laugh, right?
Yeah.
So it's just an intimidating thing, and I did wind up 1989, I think it was. I did a pilot with Nell Carter, the late Nell Carter,
yeah.
And she had a deal with NBC, and so I had all these NBC people coming up to me saying, "Hey, buddy, what's it feel like to have a steady job? This is on the air, man." Yeah, and I kind of bought into it, foolishly. I was old enough to know better, but I bought into it, and we just bombed. I mean, it was like the pilot was terrible. It turned out to be a nothing. It turned out to be, as the week went, it started out as like one thing on Monday, and by the time we shot it on Friday, it was a different animal. It was just formless. And so that bombed, and I found myself, I think I was like 32 years old, 33 years old, and I had moved my wife and baby out here from New York. I had rented a small house. I basically had spent all my money, and then the show bombed, and I actually had no marketable skills, so I went to work for an employment service, and they sent me to Sears Warehouse in East L.A., so here I had, and now people are asking me because Ferris Bueller had been out already, and I had people like clocking me, and they're like, "You look like this guy in this movie." And I'm like, yeah, not me. No, it's not me. Because I didn't want to get into it. I thought that they'd probably beat me up for being stupid. It's like you were in the movies, and then you wound up here. We should just beat you for being stupid. But so during the middle of that, I was working at Sears Warehouse, very grim. Tom Miller and Bob Boyette called up my manager and said, "We want to meet Alan because we have an idea for a show. We think he'd be right." So here I am, I'm working in the Sears Warehouse for minimum wage, and then I had these guys call me up and said that they want to offer me a leading role in a pilot, and I was like, "Yes, thank you." And then that was another thing that they sort of owned Friday nights. They had that TGIF thing,
yeah.
And they had Perfect Strangers and Family Matters and a bunch of different stuff. And then they put us in there, and it just kind of, again, it started out as one thing, and then they decided to add different characters, and it became something else. And we did 19 episodes, and of the 19, I can honestly say that there was one show that was, like, sort of funny. That actually was funny. They did a very good job. But I mean, that was it, and they were the nicest guys to work for, Tom and Bob, and it just didn't work out. But I bought a house.
Oh, there you go.
But I mean, it was the kind of show where people would say, "Alan, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Alan, you got a show on. We're going to watch it on Friday night." And I'd be like, "Nah, don't worry. You don't. It's okay. You don't have to watch. Just go out. Go out to dinner. Do something else."
So, what was it like squaring off against Tommy Lee Jones? Because there's that bit that's in the trailer just with him trying to get him to smile. It's hilarious.
Oh, I was scared because I had to smack him on the ass, and he's an intimidating. Listen, Tommy Lee Jones is a gruff, intimidating. You're just scared of him before you meet him. You're scared of him, and he was great. I think he's more brusque with men. I think he enjoys being around ladies. So he was very nice to me. And Shea Wiggum and Brian Van Holt were like, "Why is he so nice to you?" I was like, I don't know. But he has this accent. You're like, "Paige, where have you been? Where have you been shooting without you? What have you been up to?" And he's just funny. So that ended up being nice because I was so afraid of him, and he's just a curmudgeon. But he likes being around ladies, so that ended up being really fun.
All right. Miss Jane Porter, Greystoke, Legend of Tarzan.
What do Cameroon was amazing. Not many people have been to Cameroon. The locations that we went to were astounding. That scene with Christoph on the bed with him jumping around going, that was that's a pretty vivid memory. Let's see, corsets, beautiful clothes, Scotland, all the monkeys and how they had to cover their complete eyes and wear those really hot costumes, the chimps.
Right.
Let's see. Ralph. Sir Ralph. Gorgeous set.
Was it intimidating being your first film like that?
I felt a little bit like a fish out of water. I didn't know what to expect. I never experienced it. So it was mostly the feeling of like a fish out of water. Everybody else knew what they were doing, and I didn't quite know what to expect or never having experienced a huge movie. So it's kind of a hard way to start. I wouldn't suggest it for anyone. I would say start with a small film.
Right.
Start small and build up to something like that, because it was an enormous movie with a lot of attention. I don't think that's the best way to start.
What was your reaction when you found out about the post-production dubbing?
I was shocked, for starters, because I had no idea. And how I found out I thought was cruel. I went over to do looping, and they kind of told me. I was by myself.
Okay.
My agent didn't know. Nobody knew.
Wow.
I thought the way they did it was very underhanded and thoughtless. I ended up making the sounds for the baby being born in the jungle.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
That was pretty easy because I was in so much pain. I fought really hard to redub it myself, but it was really, had a lump in my throat the whole time, so I'm surprised I even made it through it.
Wow.
And it was horrible. I thought about jumping out of a window. Seriously, I did, because I kind of knew what the fight was going to be for me, and I was correct.
Right.
I was right. And, but in the end, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me in my career, because it made me work really hard, and it made me more appreciative, and it made me very humble, and taught me huge life lessons about arrogance and hard work. And I'm really not talking about my arrogance. I'm talking about how the world judges people.
Right.
So I think it taught me a lot, and it made me who I am.
Okay.
So it's like one of those horrible things that happens to someone, and at the moment it's debilitating.
Right.
And heart-wrenching, but you look back and you know that you overcame what most people could never overcome.
Right.
And so in the end, to me, if you ask me, it's the greatest accomplishment of my life.
Okay.
As far as my work goes, not including my children.
Sure.
It is a huge accomplishment because I overcame it. I overcame the impossible.
So now, how did you find your way into acting in the first place?
As I approach this age of 101, I do a lot of thinking about the long story of my life. Some of it astounds me. And I clearly was brought into the whole thing about acting by my mother.
All right.
She loved the theater. She had a very pleasant singing voice, which she used to sing for her ladies' clubs. And in those days, when I was about 9 or 10, up to about when I was 14 or so, you took what were called elocution lessons.
Okay.
you went to an elocution teacher and he taught you elocution. So you learn to speak with elocution. And that led to my volunteering when I would be in an early grammar school class. They couldn't keep me from standing up and practicing my elocution. And as a consequence, it drifted into acting, which was, of course, a very bad turn of events, but what the hell, it happened.
You seem to have made the best of it.
I did.